Africa. It's another beautiful episode of the program. I want to ask you, how are you doing? I like asking that question. I hope you're enjoying the atmosphere. It's so close to lots of festivity. Did I say so close? I think it's actually happening right now. A lot of ceremonies and looking forward also to the Christmas, which we hope and we believe it's going to be exciting. Of course, I am Chichi Mwabo and I'm going to be alone on the show today. Oh, yeah. Yes, and we are going to be doing it together. Straight up, we are going to begin with the newspaper review. We've got to know what's up in Nigeria, what the papers are saying. But remember, we've got social media buzz as well to tell you what the virtual street is all about, what the buzz is all about. And then, of course, we've got more, and we hope you are going to stay tuned and be part of it. So, as usual, we are going to begin from Sunday, this week, Sunday, the beginning of the week. And it's going to be Sunday Punch, and the major header says ISWAP moves 18 billion naira annual revenue through Nigeria's financial system, says ECOWAS body. That story is on page 3, and it says anti-graft agencies lack coordination. Federal government must act on findings to defeat terrorism, security experts say. Will study report make position known? That's the AGF are talking there. On the left-hand corner, that's on top of Sunday Punch, we've got Omicron. UK slams travel restrictions on Nigeria. COVID-19 infections increased by 76%, and the story is on page 8. It's really been a thing of concern. I'm talking about the new variant of COVID, Omicron, which has been causing a lot of concern in the world today. And UK slams travel restrictions on Nigeria, and I'm sure we're going to see more stories on that, where federal government says that is not fair. That is totally unfair, for UK to slam travel restrictions on Nigeria. There's a lot of implication, with regard to that. And it says on the right-hand corner, on top of the newspaper, federal government spends $1.4 billion on food imports in 8 months. The story is on page 11. And the concern is, why are we spending so much on food imports? Well, that would be saying a lot, tracing back to where we got it wrong, why we're spending so much on food imports, why we can actually grow, our industry. So much to talk about when it comes to that issue. So, well, it will take a lot to talk about it, but it's really not, it's not okay at all. All right, so we're going to move on to Monday. And on Monday we've got another newspaper for Monday, and it's The Guardian. The Guardian says UK halts visa for Nigerians as experts ask federal government to reciprocate. Well, that's really not okay at all for a lot of Nigerians, like I mentioned. Let's get it up close so I can see the stories on the studio. Okay, so could you get it a bit closer for me? Thank you. Passengers stranded as British Airways cancel flights in and out of Nigeria. UK detects 18 new Omicron cases. Ban to affect over 8,000 Nigerian travelers. I told you there's going to be a lot of implications. Citizens UK coming from Nigerians to pay £2,285 pounds for 10-day quarantine. Canada no longer accepting COVID-19 test results from Nigeria, 9 African countries. Global Clinic data confirms new variant is less lethal. Well, that's thanking God. Holiday travels hobble under restrictions. Forex liquidity crisis. Okay, so that's for the Guardian newspapers for Monday. And we're moving on to the Nigerian Tribune for Tuesday. And the major header says, travel red lists. Nigeria AFDB slam UK says ban on fare, not backed by science. You read more on that story on page 5 and page 25. Fuel price NLC vows to shut down economic activities, begins mobilization. The story is on page 8 of the Nigerian Tribune, and a pretty interesting story that's been, that's filled the airwaves for a couple of days now, talking about Dowen College. Deceased family hires Falana San Fi's coroner's inquest. Page 27, and that's a developing story, which we're gonna see more on that on today's episode of the program. We're going to have more on that. So let's move on to the next newspapers. Right after the Nigerian Tribune, we've got This Day newspapers, and it says Archbishop of Canterbury condemns Nigeria's red listing, calls it travel appetite. Once restrictions scrapped, travel ban discriminatory attack on diplomatic relations, Senate tells UK. NCDC confirms 3 new cases. 7 travelers from Nigeria test positive in UK. NCA, right, threatened to ban international airlines that flout COVID-19 protocols. Of course, it's COVID-19. It has to be, something that has to be taken seriously. Buhari flags of $300 million. Afrexim Bank's medical center laments brain drain. Facility to save $7 billion annual medical tourism spending, says Orama. I think that's a good development. I think it is. Yes, hopefully it's going to stem the tide of brain drain in Nigeria. We're going to have more people, more of these doctors stay in the country and use their skills, because of course when the facilities are not there, when the proper things are not put in place, we're going to have more brain drain. When we have more of such stuff like this, we hope that it's going to keep more of our intellectuals in the country. Okay, so let's move on to the next newspaper, and that's the Daily Sun. Oh yes, and we're talking about the Daily Sun for Friday, right? The Daily Sun for Friday, that's today. It says Buhari, that's for Thursday, I beg your pardon. Buhari rejects electoral bill, asks lawmakers to rework draft. Compulsory direct primary infringement on parties' rights, Uzodinma says so. Middle Belt Forum Arewa Youth, TMG kick. The story is on page 8. And you have another one down there. President condoles with parents, relations of Jodu primary school students. Only 2 students died, 14 others injured, says FRSC. It's really unfortunate that you send your children to school and you're believing that they're going to come back in safe hands, they're going to come back in one piece, and then you get to discover that something happens to them on the road, a trailer, there's no safety. It's really a painful experience. Although we've got conflicting figures with the students claiming that it's more than 2 students that died, but the official report from the FRSC says it's just 2 students that died and 14 others injured. But it's really painful to lose a child that you sent to school. You know, it's something that has to be looked at. Judicial officers won't be intimidated, CJN, and that story is on page 6. We're going to move quickly to the next paper for Friday, and it begins with the Punch newspapers. Federal government begins giving booster shots. U.S. donates 2.5 million doses. Federal government records 1,072 COVID-19 cases in 10 days. Travel ban evidence-based. UK insists. You can't talk of booster jabs when some people haven't received any. That's AU Center. The story is on page 2 of the Punch newspaper for today. Power generation drops by 1,109.6 megawatts. Sector's growth falls by 45%. And the story is on page 30. I believe that's talking about Nigeria, and that's very unfortunate. We need more power. Industrialization growth, spreading more houses, more people, and we don't expect it to fall. But I guess we get to find out more, and when you get to read the Punch newspaper, we get to know in detail what it's all about. Obasanjo, faithless suitor, unblinking political philanderer, says Akonde. Stories on page 9. Sultan can carpet federal government for escalation of highway attacks, kidnappings. A story is on page 7. You can check it out on the Punch newspapers, you know, to see what more about what is being said by the Sultan and Khan with regard to the federal government, and you get to see what it's all about. Okay, so let's move on to the next newspaper for today. We got The Guardian, and it says, save us from killers, bandits, Sultan, Khan, JNI tell Buhari, save us from killers, bandits, Sultan, Khan, JNI tell Buhari. Nigerians are being killed like chickens. Bandits murdered 80 people in a single night. Sokoto leaders write Buhari. Gunmen kill Katsina commissioner in residence. Bandits gunned down 15 worshippers inside mosque in Niger. Impose 10 million naira fine on Zamfara communities. Troops rescue 20 abducted policemen in Yobe. Amnesty. Buhari's orders to security agencies have changed nothing. Federal government insecurity responsible for Nigeria's fall from preferred investment destination. Well, that's pretty sad. It's no news that all over Nigeria that's very little, that's a lot of issues of kidnapping, banditry, and people are scared, people are worried, and it's and most of the time you get to see, you know, our president come out and say a new order, you know, but we need things to be done. We need this to be stemmed. We need it to be nipped on the bud. We need it to be handled, and so that we have more safety in our cities and in other parts of Nigeria. And so we're going to move on to the final paper for today. Yes, and before we go on to to this next segment. Daily Sun says insecurity north now killing field, says Sultan. The story is on page 4 and page 6 and page 27. Nigerians dying, Northern civil society groups tell president. Gunmen kill 16 worshippers, injure others in Niger. Mosque still on insecurity. Tension in Katsina as gunmen murder commissioner. The story is on page 5. We saw it in the previous newspaper as well. 2023 presidency, ACF gives Igbo hint on how to realize dream. The story is on page 27. And then says political parties ought to hold elected leaders accountable. And that story is on page 7 of the Daily Sun newspaper. Let's check out more stories. It says insurgency troops kill, arrest 310, destroy logistics base, others in 2 weeks. Another 192 Boko Haram terrorists surrender. The story is on page 5. And wicked federal government show evidence of money borrowed. The story is on page 27 as well. Electoral bill, Umahi opposes direct primary, says method can truncate democracy. Stories on page 7. And we've got Gumi breaks ties with bandits. The stories in page 6. And Omicron, British envoy defends ban on Nigeria. Well, maybe you want to know more. Maybe you're thinking it's unfair. Maybe you have to go and check out the Daily Sun, you know more about it. The reasons they're saying it's okay, it's fine to ban Nigeria. That story is on page 9. And I think how Obasanjo's electoral massacre cost Akonde the second term, says Buhari, ex-governor places high premium on integrity, truthful as Tinubu and Onu. I believe that's going to be all we can take on this segment, which is the newspaper review on Arise Africa. We'll be back for more. Stay tuned.
With the Brian, the Belgian imports into Man City have signed a new contract extension with the club, making prediction Chelsea and United. It's Arsenal this weekend and Liverpool.
Zinedine Zidane knows that this is not the best time to talk about Salah. Liverpool have a very important game to play against Real Madrid.
Let him go to Barcelona.
I repeat, Mourinho will never accept.
Now you have so many attacking players in that team.
ABN Sports, showing live Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11 a.m. West African time on the African Broadcasting Network, ABN.
Welcome back to Arise Africa, and we're moving on to the virtual streets. Pretty interesting to know what the Nigerians are talking about. What is causing all the buzz? What are we responding to? What is it that we like to pay attention to and to talk about? And I'm going to start with this very sad story, very, very sad, most painful experience in the world. But unfortunately, an incident happened in Nigeria where 8 children were found dead inside parked car in Lagos community. It was actually gathered that the children who are were aged 4 to 6 years old, had entered a parked Lexus SUV vehicle to play, mistakenly locked themselves, and consequently suffocated to death. The vehicle is said to be parked in front of the owner's house. Well, that particular incident has sparked off reaction on social media. Quite a number of people had a lot to say about this terrible event. We have Benny Fortune Akiemi, who says, what a terrible incident. I agree. Does it mean no adult was around to caution them? How come all the 8 kids entered the car without anyone raising alarm? There is more to the incident than meets the eyes. Let investigation begin and let the police dig deep to the cause of the horrible incident. May the Lord console their families. Well, it's really, indeed, I agree with you. It's such a sad event, a terrible one. And we got Messi Moses. That was how my kid brother, 5 years old, locked himself in my dad's parked car. That he was playing hide and seek while we were all inside the house. We heard a horn and someone went out to check, but there was no vehicle at the gate. Going back inside the house, we heard the horn again. This time around, continued with no stop. We all went outside and we discovered that my kid brother locked himself in the car. Opening the car, he has been crying and sweating, but thank God he was saved. It was only God who gave him that knowledge to keep on pressing the horn until we came to his rescue. Okay, that's Messi Moses and that. And Favor Onwuneme says it happened at Badagry. It is say that they were playing inside a car and they mistakenly locked themselves up in that car. And this car have been parked for some years now. The owner abandoned the SUV. For the reason nobody knows, may the soul rest on. Oh Lord, protect us from all hidden dangers in Jesus' name. I would say amen to that. Really unfortunate. Juliet Madu says, I'm scared of coming online these days because of bad news everywhere. May God help and protect us. May the souls rest in peace. Crown Prince said, this is so sad. Many Nigerians with primitive thoughts are saying there is more to this spiritual. Let them investigate because someone has a hand in this. During summer, more than 100 cases of kids die from such yearly. The parents forget the child in the car for a few minutes and do come back to meet the child dead, and many more. Everything about Africans, especially Nigerians, it's spiritual. The parents are to blame for it. And we've got more reactions there, but I think we're going to dive into we have another social media boss for you as well. We're going to dive into it quickly. And we've got a post by your therapist at Talk to Abby, who said, my daughter has been complaining that no one likes her in the car and all her classmates have refused to be her friend. In the wake of all that's been happening in the country lately, you know the story, I decided to pay her a surprise visit in school. And the gist is, according to the therapist, she went to the school and she asked the classmate why they did not want to be friends with her, her child. And really, really interesting. It all talks about more or less in line with bullying. She's actually called up the school that she wanted to pick up the child, and then she met the classmate and she sat down with them and asked, who amongst you don't want to be Olivia's friend again? And then she said everyone said because she's always looking for trouble and will not say sorry. So apparently her daughter has been the one bullying everyone in the class. That's why. And in front of the classmates, she talked to her daughter and said, you cannot hurt your mates. You cannot treat people like that. And at the end of the day, everyone, everything was resolved, and the child got to learn a lesson, and the children as well got to accept her child. Well, Finis Davido said, well, children go to school to learn not to make friends. Teach your children self-love. You can't force children to make friends. I taught mine self-love from kindergarten, and it's working out good. Okay. And PJ Damilade Peter says, I salute your courage for coming out to say the truth. Indeed, you are a good mother. Rachel Ejang says, I remember my daughter would come back with scratches on her face and neck every day, so I decided to go to a class teacher to find out the problem. On mentioning my issues, she told me that, Mama, your daughter is very stubborn. I refused to believe her, only to turn my face towards my daughter and seeing her seriously bullying her desk mate and the neighbors. I froze. I then ended the conversation. I told her it's okay, but we should find a way of stopping these scratches. When she came back home, I dealt with her seriously, and there was change. Sometimes we don't really know our children well. Okay, I think we're going to move on now to the next segment. There's a lot to say on this, and we're going to talk more on that on today's episode of the program. So I want you to stay tuned. In a while, we're going to come back for the crux of the matter, a discussion that's, I'm sure you'd want to join in to be part of on the show. Right, we'll be back in a sec with our guests to talk about a very interesting matter. Stay tuned.
The storms of your life, peace, be still.
Whatsoever is dead in your life tonight, God will revive it.
I said to the spirit behind it, enough is enough.
Experience the raw power of God, the hour of deliverance with Papa Ayo and Mama Helen Nourish Jaffor, showing every day at these times on the African Broadcasting Network, ABN.
We must go back to the fundamentals and the basics and start to teach people hard work.
You could prepare something like this for your family as well.
So now that I've learned the process, let me enjoy the process.
If you are not at the table taking decision, then you will be the menu on the table.
One of the ways you can actually see opportunities when you begin to see problems.
Arise Africa, showing live Fridays 10 a.m. with repeat broadcast on Saturdays 9 a.m. West African time on the African Broadcasting Network.
Today it's going to be all about the Word of God.
Welcome to another episode of Soul Connect.
That you will set the captives free because the anointing is on you and you'll be a Holy Ghost troublemaker.
Because when you hear something and you say something and you'll do something, you'll receive something.
God can transition you to a place of influence and impact by the power of the Holy Spirit.
Join us and So Connect on the African Broadcasting Network, showing live every Thursday at 6 p.m. West African time.
I am really excited today. You know what? Because Mama helping you. I'm telling you.
We love people hugging us. So this helps the body to feel safe.
We are all leaders in our own right.
Who says you can't even find someone who will love you better?
Makes you focus, drives you. It shows you an agenda.
That's right. Awesome.
Mama Helen and You with Dr. Helen Orish-Jaffor, showing every day at 8:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. West African time on the African Broadcasting Network, ABN. Have you ever been to IGC, headquarters of Word of Life Bible Church? Please do. Every service is different, powerful, and awesome. Wednesdays at 4:30 p.m. Bible study. Fridays at 4:30 p.m. revival service. Sundays 2 services. First service 7 a.m. Second service 9 a.m. Venue, IGC, the International Gospel Center at Jamimoga Road, Warri, Delta State, Nigeria. Praise and worship is heaven on earth. Come and have a taste of the Milk and Honey Choir and the Gospel Melody Voices. Chief host, Papa Ayo and Mama Helen Orish-Jaffor. 2020, I've got the power. Always have the church with you 247 with the WLBC app. Get all the information you need about Papa Ayo and Mama Helen Orish-Jaffor. Get the Daily Eagles devotional, audio messages of Papa and Mama, live streaming of services, view and post testimonies, get weekly newsletters. Enjoy a yearly Bible tour, the latest news and updates. Give online and lots more. The WLBC app is available on the Google Play Store for free.
Church, a place of wonder, a place of grace, A place of favor. A place of greatness. A place of solution. And a place of God's glory. A family to belong. We don't only care about your soul, we care about your total well-being. We urge you to be a part of this glorious, heaven-bound, blessing on earth family. Word of Life Bible Church. Bigger, stronger, and bolder. God loves you, and so do we.
Welcome back. It is no news that it's actually trending that Sylvester Oromoni, who happened to be a student of Dowen College, died from injuries allegedly inflicted actually by his fellow students, and this has caused a lot of reactions from people all over Nigeria and the world at large. And it brings to mind the subject of bullying. What is bullying all about? How big is the problem of bullying in our society? Well, today I have a guest right here in the studio who is the founding president of Value Reorientation Initiative. We call him the Africa's Premium Kids, Teens and Parenting Coach. And that's what he does to let us know how some of these vices affect our children in the society. He's the author of many books, and I'm so delighted to have Mr. Ogaga Darlington Osai in the studio. Welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Ogaga is going to be talking to us about the subject, bullying, a big problem with big consequences. Well, we're going to start from the beginning. I'm kind of a bit, what's the word? I'm kind of sober. I'm kind of saddened, yes, that's the word, with what took place about Sylvester Oromoni, and it's been something that we've been talking about over and over again. But there's this tendency in our society that when a thing has not happened, we don't take action, we don't talk about it, we don't see how we can find a solution to it. You know, we wait until it happens, and then
the worst part,
it
was preventable.
It was preventable.
It would have been preventable.
Well, we're going to talk about, but let's really define what bullying it's about.
Okay, according to Wikipedia, an online dictionary, encyclopedia, it defines bullying as the use of force or threats, okay, or teasing, ridiculing another with an intent to harm physically, emotionally, or psychologically. They explain that there are 3 things, according to the Wikipedia link that I looked up in researching this topic. They explain that 3 or 4 things must be available for an occasion or an activity to be qualified as bullying, because we can have mild conflict between friends, discussion, and all of that. But for bullying to take place, there must be an intent to harm. There must be a desire to harm. And there must be what is called the imbalanced shift of power, thinking that you have the power over someone else and the desire to just believe that you could do anything to that person without consequences. Okay, so when all of those factors are qualified, then you can say that what has happened is bully. Bully has taken place. Then also another factor that has to be in place for it to be bully is that it must be with an intent to harm the person. I mean, people argue, people have conflict, they have this misunderstanding. It may not be with the intent to harm anybody or unintentionally. At the end of the day, it ends up in harm. But bully is with the purposeful intent to harm
the person,
another.
maybe physically, psychologically, emotionally, as well. That's terrible. Someone was telling me a story before the incident of how he was bullied while he was in the boarding school.
Okay.
He described different ways that this bullying takes place.
Okay.
I don't know. I kind of ask myself, like, what's the scope of this bullying? What are the ways that it's being carried out? And why has bullying become such a big problem in our schools today?
Two big questions, but let me take the first one first.
Yes.
The scope of bullying. Bullying takes different form. Okay, you can bully. In fact, we have online bullies now.
Yes.
There are people that bully you online. We also have physical bullies. We have psychological bullies. There are those that may not even raise a pen. They may not go to a club to sit down and enjoy yourself with your friends, and you see somebody just comes in and is just oppressing you. Before you know it, the person you are sitting with is thinking of going to that table. You know that we have subtle way of bullying. But in all, bully is any activity or act that is carried out by an individual to distract the other person with an intent of harm. So that's the scope. That's how wide bully can be, and it can also be very subtle. Bully can nature. So it's not something that's overnight. I saw a proverb that was on now before our interview, that the chick that will grow into a rooster is saying the day it is hatched. I saw an African proverb that you put up now. So it's there. You see the signs that this child has the potential to become a bully, and then you see an environment. There are some environment, like I think if we have the opportunity to talk about that, there are environment that allow bullying to thrive.
Please do talk about
there are
it.
institutions, there are institutional failures that allow bully to thrive in organizations. But before we go too far, I want to state here that the issue of Sylvester Oromoni, unfortunate incidents of that young boy's demise is way beyond bully. The reason is because if you recently follow the trend, you will see that a few days ago we heard that some student beat up a teacher. Some days ago, again recently in Ughelli here, we also heard allegedly too that something of that. So something is happening in our society presently. We are currently living in a society of abandoned kids that are growing up without parenting. And what we are seeing today now is the fallout of that error in parenting. And then you come into an institution where there is no system and structure. You discover that whatever vice that comes from the home has easy access to thrive. So one of the things I would love if we could talk about today is some systemic failures that could allow bully thrive. Because bully does not only happen in schools, it happens in offices. You have female that have been bullied by their male boss. You have male workers that have been bullied by their female boss. So a few things makes it possible for bully to take place. One of them is lack of supervision. That's one of the core problems of this issue we're talking about is there was no supervision. I mean, there's somebody that's supposed to look at the child in the school. There's somebody that's supposed to look at. So in the offices, there are people that are supposed to be accountable for what's happening. So where there's an organization where there's no supervision, bully thrive. It takes place. And then an institution where there are no set norms and values. You know, norms, values, they are like, they call them organizational culture. They are not written anywhere, but they are things that we expect from each other. For instance, there are some organizations that have the principle of respect. There are some schools that have these principles of value, of respect. But the schools we have these days, all they teach is maths, English, and speech etiquette. And that's all they teach these days. Hardly do you see schools that do things that has to do with morality, you know, reviving the concept of African culture in the child and the teenagers. So those are the issues that I think around the bully case that took place recently.
You mentioned something about supervision.
Yes.
Lack of supervision.
Yes.
And I think I kind of agree with you.
Okay.
I said I was talking to someone who attended a boarding school before now.
Yes.
And he was talking about how they were not properly supervised in a boarding school. That as soon as I don't know what they call them.
The housemasters.
As soon as they're out, you would have, you know, the seniors, so whoever it is within, bully them.
Yes.
And then at the end of the day, if they report to the school authority, they will still end up with same people in the house, as in same students
there's this conspiracy of silence. There's this conspiracy of silence. And it's like a culture passed on. Most times, some of these house parents and those teachers, they say, I went to a boarding school. So it's one of the things about this bully issue. That's why I thank God for television stations like this that's talking about. We need to start talking about it everywhere. One of the things about this bully issue is that it's become a subculture. So people just believe that I went to boarding school, I was bullied. It's not a big deal. I mean, like ingrained in our subculture. Especially those, like I was in the radio before I came here now, and somebody called and said I was in a boarding school and I was bullied too. All right? So it's like a culture that people have come to accept that bullying is part of boarding school system. So there is a need for value reorientation, a change in the mindset of the people, especially those that went through boarding school. Because most times, most bullies you see today were victims of bullies yesterday. Every senior student that becomes a bully tomorrow was bullied when they
went through such bad experience.
So
in that class. For them, it's normal.
No, they've got to give back what they took. They've got to give it back because they took it from the society. So it's like mirroring and pasting what they have seen in their society. So it's a systemic, it's a cultural thing that they pass on subtly. Even parents, I heard the parent telling the child that you are growing too fat. It's time for you to go to boarding school. What is that parent saying? That you are growing too fat. It's time to go to boarding school that you be. And there's also this notion in parenting that boarding school is for children that are stubborn. I don't know if you have ever heard of that before. I was a chapel pastor in a boarding school for 4 years, and I got to see a lot of all of these things. There was a time parent brought students to school to be admitted, and I discovered that they had about 3 children in the car. And I was asking, I said, "Ma'am, what's happening? Why are you not bringing that child to our school?" You know what the parents said? Said they are okay. So that means our school is meant for those that are quote and unquote not okay. So when you bring children like that into a place, what are you expecting? Bully becomes a second culture for the day. So it goes to solve issues of bullying in schools. The school, the society, the family, and the government all have to come in and put in their hands into fighting this.
And from what you said, it's like it has a ripple effect. Like when you bully a child, the child bullies someone else. And let's talk about the effect the bullying could have on children, especially.
Yes,
on victims.
Bullying on victim has different effects depending on the personality of the sufferer. Okay, there are a few people that when they are bullied, they get withdrawn. They don't. One of the signs in my book, Parenting, one of the signs to know that your child is being bullied is that they become unnecessarily withdrawn. They don't talk to you anymore. They don't share, they just come to believe that even if I talk, because most times when they talk, nobody does anything about it. That's one. Then two, when they talk, they discover that it gets worse. Because some of these bullies' parents are rich, and so school and all of that, they have a way of aiding it. So what happens sometimes is that bully makes people become withdrawn. And when they become withdrawn, they begin to submerge their feeling. That submerged feeling will lead to a point where it will lead to an explosion. In psychology, it is called implosion. So you explode from inside. So the child becomes a worse bully than what they went through. So that's one of the ways that people react to bully. Another way people react to bully is that they become very violent. They become very violent. Some people, they become hyper violent. You may not know the reason why. A child that used to be very quiet, all of a sudden, if I need to be, and sometimes too, because some of the social media things we put out there, a lot of my friends are watching this on Facebook and all of that. I've been hearing people say on Facebook, my child should fight back. I will not have a child. That when you say such things, you are already creating a bully. Because you cannot solve bully by bullying. We can't solve the situation of bully by saying our children should go and learn karate so that they can now start fighting back every time they are bullied. So one of the ripple effects of bullying is that people become excessively, violent. Then another thing that happens too is that secretism increases, and cultism. You have people, they succumb to the pressure. Sometimes you see the child, okay, because of too much of trouble, they just succumb to the pressure, and before you know it, they become cultists. Even in primary schools today, so bullying leads to the proliferation of cultism in schools. Okay, so it makes the vices of the society becomes increased, because these children, after a while, they discover that they cannot be fought for. So what do? They succumb. So those are 3 ripple effects from bullying.
Really interesting.
Thank you.
Really, really interesting. Thank you so much for that. Talking about, from our topic, we said it's a big problem with big consequences. And so it's becoming clearer, of course, that it has big consequences. Big. We're talking about cultism, for example.
Yes.
Bullying may be part of the reason.
It is part of the reason.
It is part of the reason.
It is the instrument. Bullying is the instrument of acculturation into cultism. In fact, that's the key. Every cultist, to get you in, one of the class you must attend to become a cultist is you must go through the process of being bullied. And like I said, bullying does not always mean to be violent. Sometimes it may be subtle. Okay, and so the consequences is that our society is just unfortunate. One of the things I wrote in my recent book is that the society went to sleep. I mean, this goes to the church too. The church, what attention are we giving to children church? What attention? All we are seeing now is symptomatic. It's just a symptom. It's just a tip of the iceberg. And thank God for people that are talking about it. If nothing is done about this, it's going to be an explosion, God forbid, in the future, because it's gradual, it's subtle. Okay, so what we need, what we have in our hands right now is something that happened yesterday that nobody talked about. The other day it was a child in Deeper Life School. The other day it was a child in Abuja, a girl that was raped in Abuja. I mean, it started subtly, and we have teachers now that are being bullied by students. Okay, so before you know it, if nothing is done about it, the end consequence is that the society begin to degenerate into a state of lawlessness. I pray God doesn't help us get to that point of our time. That's why the writing has to be done.
Exactly. That's why the value reorientation is very important.
Yes.
And people have got to know that the mindset has got to change.
It has to change. And there are things schools have to do. I have about 4 or 5 things that schools
Go ahead. That was going to be my next question.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. One of the things that I think schools have to do to stop issues and incidents of this from reoccurring is schools should stop parents from giving tips to teachers. Okay. That's one of the subtle way of sponsoring bullying. Because you see, most parents, I can see that you're smiling. It appears you don't agree with that. But the simple truth is, when parents come to school and they give tips to teachers, that's where you see some children are excused with their wrong behaviors. I mean, this issue of the ceremony that took place, it didn't start today. It didn't start with this young boy. It would have started, it would have been on and on with a lot of other children, but subtly, because, oh, is that big man's child, is that big man's child. So one of the things that schools should stop, if you need to give a teacher something, go to the management. Let the management be the one to reward the teacher, instead of parents rewarding teacher. Sometimes it's like bribe. I saw a post on social media where a parent said one of our parents was not as good as him. He didn't speak, he didn't say anything. All the guy did was, before the election, the guy came and started sharing candies. It's time for school owners to understand that your staff will not do the things you say they should do because you say they should do it.